first question for Lindsey, just more of a get to know you, is if we were to open your liquor cabinet, what would we find in it?
Aside from a full liquor cabinet,
overflowing.
Lots of single malt scotches. So all of the regions are represented in my scotch collection at home, just because I like to be able to have the breadth of everything included. So it's going to have some examples that I wrote down that I have is the Lagavulin Distillers Edition, which is, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
A Tullamore is in there as well. Wouldn't be complete without it. I've got the Glen Scotia Double Cask, which is another expression by the lovely Glen Scotia that we'll be discussing today. I have the Glenfiddich, Isle of Jura, Auchentoshan, Deanston, some of the ones that are found in my cupboard, along with just a large collection of bitters and syrups and shrubs and all kinds of other stuff like that. Some red wine, basic cocktailing stuff, as you'll find in most bartenders' homes. The basic things to make pretty much any cocktail.
Perfect. So next question is there a whiskey that's in your cupboard that when it gets to 3/4 empty, you just can't not have a bottle waiting?
Well, definitely that Lagavulin Distillers, mostly because when I open up my liquor cabinet for company, it's one of the first ones that I grab. Not chronologically, but one of the ones where I'm like, if you've never tried it, you're not going to leave my house without having tried it because it's phenomenal.
Yes, it is.
It's really evocative of like a storyline. It gives you kind of imagery in your head when you drink it. So that one never leaves my liquor cabinet.
So one of the things people ask me on a regular basis is, what's your favourite scotch? I always find that I go through different phases. So at the moment, I'm still into that heavily peated or peated with lots of sherry.
Mm-hmm.
Lagavulin Distillers Edition, absolutely amazing. I love it. Those Fino sherry notes come across really nice. It's just delicious, and I love it. So that's what I'm into at the moment, and even to the Highland things. But so if there was a go-to drink that you drink, other than single malt scotch and Irish whiskey, what would it be?
It would probably be a beer to accompany my Irish whiskey.
Yeah, so
if we're being honest.
I always like to have a Guinness because I know what a Guinness flavour is and what it brings, and so I don't like to introduce anything. I would never have a taste a single malt scotch and Irish whiskey with a beer that I hadn't had, because I just don't know what it does to flavours.
Or even one with really bold, overpowering.
Exactly. So the last two questions: why Tullamore you tenure?
So again, Tullamore is one of my really good classic basic go-to Irish whiskeys. It's nothing incredibly fancy. It's fantastic for the price point, no matter what expression you're getting as well. But I lean towards the tenure just because I really love how it's matured in 4 different types of wood.
Yeah.
I think that takes that really solid base foundation and builds upon it in a way that gives it the complexity and the depth that you're looking for in some of your older expressions without necessarily having to wait that long or pay that much.
Yeah.
So I think it gives you that gift. I love this one. I think Tullamore just takes a couple of really important pieces and facets them together in a way.
And does a great job of it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Second biggest Irish whiskey production in the world. Why Glen Scotia?
I'm a sucker for Glen Scotia. You know that I am. And I just think that Campbelltown doesn't get enough attention. I think that, even in some whiskey maps, it's overlooked as a region entirely. It used to be really prominent, having 30 to 40 roughly distilleries kind of in its heyday, and now it's down to 3, 4. So for that reason, it's lumped in a lot of times with like the Highlands.
Sure.
But they're different.
It's unique to that area, absolutely.
So if you were to try 7 Highlands in a row and one of them was Campbelltown, it probably wouldn't fit in incredibly well with the rest of the group. And so I think that it's important to kind of recognize what that area is known for, why we distinguish it here at Merlins as its own region, and why we think it's important to emphasize that. I like the combination of like deep, rich, sweet flavors that pair well with like a really nice wood note, and then finishes with just a little bit of smokiness from the deep charred barrels. So it's not peated, but it has that hint of smoke flavor. And I think that that's a good way to distinguish the 2 flavors.
And this is where I'm going to pass it over to the lovely Lindsey. So tell us all about this. Cheers. Sláinte. It's got a beautiful amber, orangey, kind of like slightly burnt orange colour.
It's got good legs.
Lovely legs.
Clings to the glass really nicely.
Yeah. Oh wow.
A sweet floral.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Spring bouquet of flowers, almost right at the beginning. It's got some vanilla and almost some like unroasted coffee.
Yeah.
Like a raw coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, we have coffee that we use to clear out our factory bowl, and we have some water as well, just for.
That'll be important for the Glen Scotia.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, yes.
This is 40% ABV. It's finished in 4 casks, ex-bourbon, ex-Oloroso,
Madeira and port.
and yeah, Madeira and a port wine. There's it's a little bit, I don't know whether, I'm not quite sure where, maybe earthy. Pineapple, but it's
yeah, it's like that tropical sweetness.
Yeah, it reminds me of
It's kind of like a fruit smoothie in a weird way.
yeah, it's a definite. Oh, there's a
Vanilla. There's some vanilla on there too.
maybe grass. It might be a bit grassy. There's a nice undertone of wood.
It's got a nice burst of spice, kind of like immediately, and has a really nice active palate. Fills your mouth with that nice tingling sensation. And then I get like young wood right off the bat. And then it kind of moves into those like wine influenced flavors. So, you know, like your deep berry and your red currant and fig and those types of notes, which almost cross over with the Glen Scotia actually. Both have similar like baked notes.
Oh yeah, this is lovely. It's sweet. There's an initial spice, but it's not overpowering spice. This is
It reminds me of perfume, where there's like top notes and then there's secondary notes.
Yep.
So it's kind of what comes first, what comes second.
The Oloroso sherry, the Madeira, and the port notes certainly come out. You don't have to hunt for those flavors; they're in there. But the spicy part of it is just well balanced.
Yep.
It's a really everything is.
It touches a little bit on all the notes without overpowering them or muddling them, or drowning them out. Which is tough to do, especially when you get into 3rd, 4th, 5th finishes. You tend to sometimes lose the ability to distinguish just one.
Yeah.
And it just kind of muddles itself into a really nice overall flavor, but you struggle to pick out what the influence is. Whereas I think this one you can, like port especially.
It's a little bit. It's a bit malty, like biscuity, in there as well. It's just lovely. My notes say that there was a hint of tobacco in there at one stage, but
maybe that's the earthy tone. Like that might be something more. It's like a tobacco plant instead of processed type tobacco.
Yeah. And there's definitely maybe white, a smidgen of white pepper. Yeah. Again, well balanced. That all the flavors are there for you. You don't have to search for them. Absolutely lovely. Absolutely lovely. Very quaffable. As you know, most of the time I would add water to these, but at 40%, this doesn't need any water.
They did it themselves. They did it to where they diluted it to the point that they wanted it, and that's what they meant.
But this is absolutely gorgeous. A fantastic dram.
And representative of Irish whiskey in a really nice, unique way as
absolutely,
well.
Absolutely.
I think that it kind of, like, if you're looking for a good, solid Irish whiskey that you know is going to hit all the notes that you know and love from Ireland, then you won't be disappointed. With really anything from Tullamore too, but this one especially.
I think what I really like about what Tullamore have started to do is they do their classic blend of single pot still, malt, single grain, really great, as you said, as a go-to for mixing or just sipping. But they've come out with lots of single malts. The Phoenix is not particularly Phoenix, but they did a full team year. They've really started to experiment with maturation. Their Caribbean rum cask is
cider cask as well.
Cider cask, exactly.
Which is fun and unique. You don't see a lot of distillers choosing those necessarily.
Exactly, and I love that fact. I always go back to the Teeling distillery, the Cooley distillery. John Teeling did some absolutely amazing stuff at that distillery, and his two sons, James and Stephen, now at the Teeling distillery, are doing fantastic stuff as well with their wood finishes and stuff like that.
And in 2024, we'll be getting to have our Tullamore New 10 year that's from Tullamore.
From their distillery, exactly. Yeah.
So
this is incredible stuff. I absolutely love what the resurgence of the Irish whiskey industry and the stuff they're doing.
And Jameson cask makes, they do a barrel exchange for their
exactly.
stout as well. So
exactly.
they'll get it after it's been used for stout and then return it so they can use it for stout again.
Yeah.
Which is going to add
to
you
get whiskey flavors.
Exactly.
Yeah, you get those cross.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff.
It's a great way to reuse barrels too, because, we discuss it all the time when we discuss, it's bourbon, that they won't fill the barrels again because they have to use virgin. So instead of wasting all those barrels, they go to the use.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Again, if you can find it, this was a limited release. I think it came out in 2015. So it's been around for a while. If you can't, come into Merlin's Rest.
Even if you can't, come into Merlin's Rest.
Exactly. Come into Merlin's. What we suggest is come into Merlin's Rest in August, 19% discount. You get to taste it on drams and full measures.
It's a great deal. It's a good opportunity. Especially
and you can decide whether you want to go out and chase down a bottle or two. And I got to say, this needs to just let and oxidize for a while. As always, we say this all the time. Some of it, and then leave a little bit in your glass, let it oxidize, and then you get to taste two Irish whiskies instead of one. And we suggest that you do that at Merlin's Rest. Always leave a little bit in the bottom of your glass. Come back to it. Those changes, the palate changes. It's just wonderful. Just wonderful. As you may know, I love doing the research on the history, because they are, without a doubt, in the Irish whiskey industry and the Scotch malt distilling industry, there were some incredibly interesting men. And I have to be, when I'm researching these, I have to be very cognizant of the fact that I have to be single-minded in just the distilling information. So I'm going to give you a little bit of information about the Glen Scotia distillery in Campbelltown. It was founded in 1832. Glen Scotia, founded in 1832. It has two wash stills. It has two stills. It has a wash still that has a capacity of 3,500 imperial gallons and a spirit still of 2,600 imperial gallons. Not very big at all. The water source is Cross Hill Lock and a deep local well. Interesting, the Cross Hill Lock was constructed before 1868 by the Duke of Argyll to supply water to the distilleries in Campbelltown, which at one time had, as we said, 30 distilleries, and now only has 3. It is lightly peated. The barley for Glen Scotia is lightly peated, 15 parts per million, and it is a combination cast of 90% bourbon and 10% sherry. The malted barley comes from Greencore Maltings, which is a big malting operation in I think Southwest Scotland.
For reference, the Octomore is what, like one of them is like what, 70?
169, and I think there's I think one of them is up into the. Was there one at 207? One of the earlier ones.
Something up pretty high, yeah. Just to get a range of what peats per million parts look like. So
exactly.
15 is
a phenol. I mean,
just a whisper of a.
Yeah, it's just a hello, rather than I'm going to kick your teeth. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, gently whispered from the next room. The history of Glen Scotia Victoriana. Distilling on the Kintyre Peninsula dates back to 1609 with the granting of the first licence to produce aqua vitae. 1932, the distillery was founded by Stuart Galbraith and Company, and it was known as Scotia. 1933, the Bloch brothers buys the distilleries and reopens as Glen Scotia. That's where we first hear of Glen Scotia. Interesting note that I found that Campbelltown was not the original town's name. The place itself was established in 1597 by an Act of Parliament, and it started to be settled in 1607. It was known as Lockhead until the mid 19th century, when the name Campbelltown was invented by the local lairds. Glen Scotia Victoriana. I believe that Glen Scotia Victoriana, they wanted to produce a single malt Scotch that was reminiscent of the style of single malt Scotch in the Victorian age from that region.
Which is, again, a really fun concept that I don't know that a lot of other distillers have chosen to kind of wrestle with. It's to try and take a page out of a history book and distill it in that style.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun.
It's big.
Cask strength, yeah.
It's 51 and some change, 51.5 ABV. It's a lovely gold colour.
Maybe it's pretty close to the Tullamore Dew.
Yeah. I think the Tullamore Dew has a slightly more amber.
Yeah, like orangier.
Exactly.
A little bit
more burnt orange.
Yeah, yellow gold. Close to the glass for quite a bit of time. You can tell that it's got a nice long finish. It smells like sweet and a little bit leathery. A Shirley Temple and a grandfather shoe.
There's pineapple. There's tropical fruits in there, isn't there? My notes, I've got. There's toffee apple.
Caramel. Like caramel apple.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it does smell like jammy.
Yes, yeah, black. There's dark fruit in there as well, like blackberries and plums.
Currants.
Yeah. And the wood smoke in there is just a wisp. It's like you're downwind of a fire, a mile away. You're just getting a whiff of it.
I think that goes a long way to create kind of not only a full-bodied whiskey, but the imagery in your head that goes along with it.
Yep.
Which I think takes a good whiskey to the next level up.
And I get a little bit of sea salt, and there's a little bit minerally, I'm not thinking like seaweed bigly, but just.
It's interesting because it does have a little bit of palate. It is like.
Have you already tasted it? These girls.
It's like a lot more oceanic than.
It's got a lovely nose, without a doubt. And there's vanilla in there as well.
A little bit of maple.
Yeah, is that what? Yeah, yeah.
The double cask is really mapley. This has like a nice hint of it. It's interesting how it can have a palate that feels soft, but also has that nice spice to it. It has that viscous, thick mouthfeel, but also kind of leaves that nice spice note to it.
So I'm a wuss, and it is close to cask strength, so I'm going to add some water to it. I don't mind. I don't mind what you say. With water, it gets more. It's more like there's a little bit of digested biscuit that comes out.
I think this one does get a lot of water though. It does open up quite a bit.
And vanilla, it comes straight out. And like burnt sugar, caramelized.
Creme brulee-esque type.
Oh yeah, exactly, yeah. And lovely pineapple. Again,
pineapple,
lovely.
Pear, a little bit of pear.
Yeah, like not poached pears, but like.
It's like a grilled pear.
Ooh, yeah.
To have that nice char note.
It's a little bit spicy. Again, not too much. The palate is mouth coating. It's creamy, and it has that lovely oily texture that is
reminiscent of an island. Almost.
And but I think that I get that from Campbelltown, like the Springbanks.
Which is why I think it's worth noting that it's not just another Highland. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because I think that it pulls that note, which
absolutely
isn't necessarily indicative of a Highland. Oh yeah, I think the sweetness and like the honey note comes out with some water as well. Yeah, this is a really nice one.
Yeah.
It's perfect for like an after dinner whiskey to like. It's dessert. Yeah. It's a dessert whiskey.
Absolutely. And just a couple of minutes of oxidization. The blackberries come out. It's jammy. Just like a compote.
Good notes too. I think the spice on the palate is a little bit more brought forward as well by a little bit of water.
Yep.
I think that it fills your mouth a little bit more.
Oh yeah, adding water to it.
It explodes.
Really adds the spiciness. It's almost a little bit tart.
Like a raspberry. It's like a berry, but it also has like sour note.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. But it's not overpowering. It's just a little bit. And it's a little bit. It's somewhat herbally.
It almost reminds me of like an Amaro, how Amaros have like the Italian spice liqueur, how they have like that herb bold dynamic to it as well.
Yes, yeah. And the oak comes through. The smoke is there again, but it's right at the very back. It's almost like an afterthought. Delicious. I mean, delicious, delicious, delicious. The finish is of medium length, slightly ashy, not ashy and not soot. It's in between the two. Spicy, and there's it's a little bit fruity towards the end, and you get that digestive biscuit as well. Just
like
in
a fruit
there.
crumble.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It's got like that crumbly oatness to it.
Yeah.
Or that bakedness.
Yeah, definitely that yes. Oh, this is just lovely. Yeah, lovely, lovely, lovely. There you have it. Tullamore Dew, 10 years, single malt. Glen Scotia, Victoriana, special pricing for the month of August, 19% off. These are the picks of the lovely Lindsey. Great job. These are great choices.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that
out of the ones that
County Offaly, I'm slaughtering the name, I'm sure, had over 30 distilleries in its heyday, similar to Campbelltown. So it was just, I just love the
similarity.
The similarity, yeah. And they both managed to survive, which is wonderful because, as we know, so many distilleries of wonderful distilleries
all on hard times.
Yeah, and closed.